everybody, and welcome to the As You Are podcast. My name is Leslie Vandergans. I'm the founder of Enso Coaching and Consulting, and I'm here with Kathleen, one of our amazing coaches.
Ooh, hello.
And we have an amazing guest today. Super fun. It is Justin Brady-Joyner, who is a leadership consultant and coach, and also Lego artist.
Yes.
We're so excited to have you here.
Excited.
I'm
excited.
Such a fun, layered story. We're going to get into it. We were just kind of talking prior to, and I just can't wait to get into this. But the fun thing is that the reason why Justin and I know each other is we did a little show called Footloose. Heard of her? In 2000, what was it?
2011.
11.
I know.
Dang.
I know. It's been so long.
In 2011, just doing Footloose at Zilker Hillside Theater. And that's how we knew each other. And over the course of the last, several years, maybe 10 years, maybe about 10 years, Justin has been doing this amazing Lego artist work, and he ended up going on, well, we can talk about all of it, but let's just start with this, how did you get into this space of being this kind of influencer in the Lego space?
Yeah, it's so random and interesting. I think as an adult, a lot of times people, pre-pandemic, a lot of times people didn't think of adults building with Lego. But when I first moved to Austin, 2009, I think it was, I went to Barton Creek Mall looking for holiday gifts and saw the Lego store and was like, that's random. They have a store just dedicated to Lego. And I played and built with them as a kid. But went in and saw they had these winter holiday display things. And I thought, this is fun. I'll build this every year and it'll just be a little something. And then fast forward to where now it's my entire life. It's a huge part of how I spend my time. And I went from that being just a seasonal fun thing to it's really a big piece of how I build and grow community. Mostly online, but also in person, which has been so much fun.
It's amazing. Yeah. Well, and you had the opportunity, we can just kind of jump to Lego Masters.
Sure,
you had the opportunity to be on this show, which is competitive Lego building, which is insane. My children, they do Lego building. Also, my daughter likes the prepackaged stuff, and then my son will do the more creative type things or whatever. But when I saw that you were doing it, my kids were like, let's watch it. We need to watch it. And it was so fascinating, just the things that you guys created out of, nothing.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you?
Oh, that was wild. It was the most fun. So first off, with your kids watching, one of the things I love the most that I heard from lots of people across different phases of my life was my friends who are now parents saying, you finally gave me some really cool street cred with my kids. Because I'm I know the guy on Lego Masters. Which I was like, oh, I'm honored to help you in that way. But the experience was honestly life-changing. I have been someone who I think for the longest time struggled with perfectionism and really saw everything as not good enough. And I went on the show with a dear friend of mine, John, who lives up in Dallas. We knew each other through Instagram, but we'd never built together. So building together was really the first time I was on the show.
Oh, wow.
And he is gregarious and fun, but he's also kind and empathetic and thoughtful. And he would notice those elements of perfectionism and lack of self-belief and things and would push me on that. And I left the show with so much more self-confidence, which was just the biggest gift. Yeah. So.
Well, what was that like going into this experience with somebody? And I think of it as a creator, right? There's a little bit of just like you said, perfectionism, but also ownership to the creativity too, right? Yeah. What was that like going in with somebody you've never built with before? And you're like, okay, we're going to do this together. Because I can imagine there would be in competition too. So add that added pressure, and it's televised.
Right. So. Yeah. It is a pressure cooker for sure, in all the ways that you just mentioned. For me, I think it was, I was really hopeful that our chemistry would really work well because we were good friends, but the process of working with someone on a team, obviously you need to trust each other. You need to trust yourself as well. And you need to be able to allow for their creativity to come through and do it in a collaborative way. Yeah. And I didn't want it to be something where I was dominating the conversation or where he was, and found that we yes-anded each other the whole time, which was just wonderful. And he loves theater. His background isn't performing in theater, but he absolutely could. He's so perfect for the stage. But he understands those concepts. And I learned really through, I think why we were good friends was because we had a lot of those shared values. So I think I went into it with a healthy amount of trust already, and that helped it be successful. So,
yeah.
So good.
We often talk about, because we are artist types, with theater especially, the collaborative nature, where it's like you can't do anything on your own. That yes and so I'm curious, like, when was a moment that you felt like we're really clicking? And maybe also when was a moment you had to kind of like push yourself to work together?
Yeah. That's such a good question. And I also love the clicking piece with Lego. It happens.
Maybe when it snapped into place.
Many
It's so perfect.
opportunities
Oh my
for
gosh.
themes, right?
Just left and right for sure. So the first episode, that was our first time really building something massive together, and you're mic'd and everyone can hear you in the studio and all the producers and everything, but they're not there in your face. But there's cameras everywhere and all of the things. And that first episode, I think we went through a little bit of I think we were both tiptoeing around each other a little bit. And so I would actually prefer that as opposed to someone who's bulldozing.
Right.
Because it makes it easier to say, hey, come forward a little bit more naturally than like, I need you to step back.
Right.
So after that first episode, I felt like we were starting to figure some things out. But then it was in the second episode that it just felt like all of a sudden things unlocked, and we knew each other's strengths well enough to say, like, I need you to do this, and he could do the same with me. That episode also, they paired us with another team. And so it went from first time building with him to first time building with these three people. Just at that timing, it felt like something changed and shifted in the ways that we were able to just trust each other, which was fun. The challenge piece was we had an episode that was a Batman episode, which was so much fun. And also like getting to build a Batmobile on TV with the real Batmobile there, and like Will Arnett, and you're like, this is just, how is this real life for real? But I found I was working on a portion of the build and was zeroed in and focused on it, and I knew it had to be right because this was a key element of the visual identity of what we were creating. And he was working on the ship itself, and mine were basically bat wings that were to attach to it. And I could not get it right. And I was stuck and I was frustrated. And he was also frustrated and stuck and kept saying, hey, I need you to help me look at this. And I kept saying, no, I have to finish this. And finally, I got frustrated enough with him asking that I was like, fine, I'll set this down, I'll help you. And then as I'm working on his thing, I instantly found the solution he needed, and my brain worked out what I was struggling with. And it was like that reminder of take a break.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Step away from it when it's too big of a challenge because your brain is going to solve it for you. When you give yourself the space to not be in that like fired up, freaked out mode. So,
so Justin, everything that you're talking about like translates into this work. And I know this is a little bit of a segue, and I want to get back to the Legos because it's so cool. But like how even these lessons that you learned inside of this competition, working with somebody brand new, like this kind of tension, how do you see those things translated into the work that you do as like a leadership coach? I know you do a lot of work in the DEI space as well. And so like, what are those like things that connect those two pieces together for you?
Love that. There are so many pieces that come through. And I think that's also where I see my role within the Lego space, not as an influencer. That term feels cringy, but at the same time, like, I guess it's what I am in some senses.
He's so influencing.
I mean, I'm influenced to try Legos now.
It worked. But I do think that a big piece of it is I look at the opportunities that I have as ways to build and grow empathy and self-confidence with people. And so I can speak on, here was my journey with this, and here's where I struggled. You know, I think when I first watched the first season of Lego Masters, the show had been reaching out to a lot of people in the Instagram Lego space because they could see your personality and could get a sense of like, oh, this person might be good on TV, right? But the show, the people casting, especially that first season, didn't fully have a grasp on like what build skills were needed. And that grew over time, I think, with the show. And also the people on the first season were incredible and now good friends of mine, which is a lot of fun. But I remember they reached out to us and I was like, I don't I couldn't do this. I could never do that. And so then fast forward, I was on the 5th season and I went on with more confidence and grew so much during that time. So I like to share that experience with people and help them see, because a lot of times people see the finished product. And so they'll see, oh, that person's on Lego Masters. They're an expert at this. But that expertise doesn't come overnight. This was, ultimately probably a 7-year journey of building things that were beyond instructions that grew my skills incrementally over time. So I like to use that in my build community to teach people the skills that they need to level up their skills there. And then through that, they're leveling up their self-confidence as well. And then I apply that in a leadership concept with clients. And so I'll think about, what are the team building struggles that you're running into and challenges, and how do we think about it creatively? Often using play in a way to unlock your brain and get you out of thinking about the problem.
So cool.
So that example of the bat wing was one of those examples where I was zeroed in on the problem and I couldn't unlock my creativity in the moment.
100%.
So stepping away, playing, doing something totally different allows you to relax, de-stress related to, or reduce the stress related to the problem at hand, and thinking about solutions in ways that you wouldn't think about otherwise.
We talk about like system 1 and system 2 thinking.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And so and it's hard in the moment because you are in that kind of high pressure, like fix the thing and I need it, right?
Absolutely. But I mean, what's coming up for me a little bit with the play, the creativity, the other facets of your brain that is opened.
Oh,
but
for sure.
Also the perspective a little bit of coming back to the stakes where it's like, okay, someone's literal life is not on the line.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's true like for leadership as well,
100%.
for perspective, where it's like when you are in it, just all the pressure you could feel, where like if you're able to take that breath, that recentering, that perspective building, not just for how do you solve a problem, but also for how do I approach it?
That pause is so necessary, and it's hard to do when you're in that moment of, I have to solve this business challenge. If I don't, XYZ is going to fail. My neck is on the line, my job is on the line. I've hired this consultant to, build a strategy, and it needs to be done yesterday. And it's like, none of that is going to help you solve the problem
100%.
At all. You need to pause and take the time to actually figure out what problem you're solving and why it was a problem in the first place. So get to those root causes. And I think that's where this experience, it gives me a lot of metaphors that I can share and a lot of personal experiences. But I like to also get my clients to play and get the metaphors themselves.
That's amazing.
So I use something called Lego Serious Play with a lot of my clients. It's a facilitation model, and it's one that's built out of neuroscience, but it's really designed to help people, again, look at the problem as something just different and start to build and create things in a way that unlocks their brain to find a solution. And a lot of it is really rooted in storytelling and in the metaphors that you create through what you built. And it's also fun for me because I'll get people who will say, I've never built with Lego. Like, this was not a part of my childhood. And then you get the people who are still doing it as adults like me. And those people in the same rooms, they build totally differently, but the solutions that they create are actually really effective and helpful. And often the things that are most interesting are the things that come from people who've never touched a brick.
Amazing. Can you give us an example of like when you have done this and something like really amazing came out of it?
So I was working with an organization that was struggling with values congruence, and they specifically ran into an issue with the value of belonging, where they were espousing these things and saying these things, but their employees were not feeling these things. And that was a huge piece of the work that I did in DEI spaces. And that's really where kind of the root of where I focus on empathetic leadership, because I think that drives belonging. And so we were talking about the concept, and if you simply talk about it, it's not going to reach people, and they need to be able to actually feel it and experience it. And the other piece was, this was a customer-facing organization, so they needed to make sure their employees extended that to the customers. But you can't extend that to customers if you're not feeling it yourself.
Right.
And so we needed leadership to see that and understand that. So they had to be a part of the solution and a part of the workshop, which thankfully they were on board, so that was good. Sometimes that's it's the fun challenge of you need to be here. I need you in the room.
Participate. Yes, exactly.
And they had these like flashpoint moments that made it clear to leadership that belonging was not there, but they didn't understand the lived experience of their employees. And so it was like building, and I used the Lego Serious Play method with them. I had them build their ideal workplace. Actually, for starters, I had them build what are some barriers to belonging.
Oh, interesting.
So we started from that place to get them to talk about what are the problems that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And what's fun is some people enter that space being afraid to speak up, because if you don't feel a sense of belonging,
100%.
you may not want to actually share much about why.
Right.
And those employees then were able to do it in a creative way that allowed their voice to come through, but it still felt a little distanced from the exact personal, this is what happened to me type thing. And then through that, we created some metaphors around what does belonging, or what does kind of disconnection and exclusion look like? And we flipped it to what is the ideal workplace when thinking about the concept of belonging. And so then we talked about adapting your models that you built. What changes did you make? And the power isn't in what is it that I see and what they built, but it's in what do they see and how do those metaphors help them kind of find the beginnings of a solution. You don't leave that workshop and instantly culture's fixed.
Right.
But it was a starting place. Yeah,
for sure.
So,
I also think, go ahead.
No, go.
Oh, I just think about being able to have a literal representation as well, something that's tangible that you can point to, along with like the amount of thought that has to go into how am I creating this and what in my experience am I pulling from in order to make this physical representation.
Well, and do you do that with tangible, when you're saying, so if they're saying, okay, we're gonna build something that's representing the barriers, is it like abstract?
It's abstract. It is. So there are kits that I'll bring and really all of this is rooted in the neuroscience behind it. So I try to make sure I'm following the methodology. A lot of times people hear about Lego Serious Play and they think, oh, I've got Legos at home, I can bring them in and we can do this. And it's like, well, yeah, you can play, but there's a difference with the process and structure. And so the kits have specific bricks in them for the purpose of getting people to think creatively. It has minifigures that don't have expressions, and that's purposeful because if you add certain elements to it, a lot of times people start to make meaning of the story based on what the bricks look like, as opposed to the more abstract concepts that can come out. And so there's some kind of thought and intention around what pieces you're using, but then also around the process that you're going through as well. So we always start with kind of some getting to know the bricks and learning the language of Lego. And it's not me teaching the language, but it's more let's come up with a language that we're using in this room. So if you see what I would call a 2x4, that is a 2x4 brick that's, a certain size and whatever, and it has, 8 studs on top. Well, others will look at that and they'll say, there's 2 rows of 4 dots. Or they'll say, it's a block. Well, I'm not going to correct them and change that, but let's use the language that you're using because I don't want them to get hung up on those pieces, but more to think about, what is the story and the meaning that you're creating here? And people get really afraid to build and create because it feels vulnerable. And then just the element of play at the beginning where it's like build a tower, build something that's innocuous and more simple for them. It doesn't feel simple at first for those who've never touched a brick.
Wow.
But it also still gets them out of their fear place and more into the just like, this is fun. One of the things I love the most is just hearing people giggle and laugh and point at each other's builds and all that. It's like, oh my gosh, I
was thinking that too in terms of like already building that teamwork and camaraderie when it's, because I don't know how to build Legos and I would see myself being like, what are you doing? That's pretty cool. I see the way you're, maybe I stack it that way too.
Right.
How to already use each other as a resource when doing something unfamiliar.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of still part of that like whole yes and concept too, right? Yeah, how do we learn from each other? How do we grow from each other? And then still try to find our own self inside of it as well?
Oh, for sure.
Amazing.
I know.
And the process too, it goes through the individual building and the individual storytelling, but then with larger strategy sessions, you can move into really clear collaborative builds where people are definitely building on each other's models, connecting all the concepts together. And so it can go super deep and it can also be multiple sessions with clients. steps. Or it can be as simple as, this was the starting place. Now you have some next steps that you can take from here. And maybe we can solve those challenges in a new way, knowing what we learned from these workshops.
Wow.
So
this is fascinating.
This is so fascinating.
It's so fun.
I mean, I can't even imagine. Well, and I think the other thing, that the whole concept of like find what you're passionate with and then the work will follow is something that's just really standing out to me because again, you've done a lot of DEI work and leadership work prior to correct?
This.
Like prior
Absolutely.
to getting into the Legos, work, moonlighting or whatever you want to call it. But like how, can you talk through the process of when you kind of were like, wait, these two things fit together, and then I'm going to like go down this path.
Yeah, absolutely. So back when we were doing theater together, I was working in higher education. And so I worked with college students, mostly with leadership development outside the classroom. We had some courses where we were teaching leadership philosophies and concepts, but the core of my work was building programs and working with students who built programs for their peers. And the core of all of the leadership programs we had included diversity and inclusion woven in. It was just a framework and a part of what we wanted to ensure was kind of embedded everywhere. And so I didn't see myself at the time as a DEI expert. I saw myself as someone who knew some things. And one of the challenges, I think, of working in higher education is, my job required a master's degree, and you get the degree, and that helps you prepare you for understanding really adult learning theory. I later learned how all of this applies in a workplace I learned later how all of this applies in a workplace context with learning and development and adult learning theories and such. But you get that degree and then you start working, and in order to advance in your career, you need to get a PhD eventually. And because of that, and I also think because of my own challenges with perfectionism and such, I always saw myself as I'm still learning, I'm still growing, which I think is a healthy thing to do. It's an important belief and an important value, but it can also, in my case, chip away at your confidence. And so I didn't really feel comfortable with the idea of subject matter expertise. Like it seemed to me initially as like, oh, you're not an expert until you've achieved a million things, right? So eventually I shifted from working in education spaces to corporate, and I was doing corporate learning and development. I was working as a business partner within the organization to help identify learning needs and then find solutions. And very quickly at the organization, as I was learning about the L&D culture and such, I saw things through the lens that I'd honed and developed over so many years that I thought, there's some ways we can improve this and kind of address some of these little things. And I spoke up about it, and people said, oh my gosh, we didn't see it that way at all. Like, you have a gift in this area. This is really cool. Maybe you can help us look through and evaluate some of these other leadership programs we have and other things and help give us some guidance and direction. And I found my willingness to keep speaking up and saying, hey, I see an opportunity here. I see an issue where maybe we're sending a message that we didn't intend to send. And if we tweak it in these ways, it actually helps. And very quickly, the organization highly valued the work I was doing and said, oh, we have a D&I steering group. Would you like to be a part of this? It was full of executives who cared and wanted to do something, but had no time, had no resources, and were coming together and saying, we know there are problems to fix, but we don't know what to do. And so I went to my first meeting, and I heard a lot of wonderful ideas and commitment, but lack of knowledge of what to do next. And I thought, there's some easy starting points for us. Here are some ideas. And I set up a meeting with our at the time, our HR VP, who ended up being our chief people officer. And I said, hey, I've got some ideas for the steering group and maybe some starting places. And she said, great, will you run the next meeting? I was like, okay. Okay, yeah. So talk about imposter syndrome. Yeah, right? I went into that room and I was like, these people don't know me. Like, how are they going to just assume that I know what I'm talking about? But it was her faith in me because I was willing to speak up and say, I see some things that could be addressed. I see some starting points of a solution. And my boss knew this was a passion for me. And she said, you have as much time as you want to work on this because I also care about this and think it's important for the organization. And then that shifted in the next probably 9 months to being a working steering group that was starting to put some things in place. And at the time, our HR kind of reorged, and we said we need staff. And so I became the first D&I staff to lead a function that was not existent.
Yeah.
Which, looking back, there have been multiple times in my career where I was brought in to create something out of nothing and was so intimidated every time. And then look back on it and think, wow, I actually did those things and people had faith in me to do those things.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to have faith in myself. So,
oh, wow.
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, and of course, like the metaphor tying back into Legos, where it's like it doesn't exist. It
No,
is a bunch of
exactly.
blocks,
create it, right?
and
a
then
mess,
and how do you create from it?
Yeah.
I will say too, because imposter syndrome like exists for most everybody. I would say.
Yeah.
For me, one of the like unlocks and framing was this idea of like, do you trust the people who believe in you?
Oh, yeah.
And if you trust
Ooh.
them, I know, I really
That's
love it.
really humble. I love that. Yeah.
And so if you trust the people who believe in you, trust
Mhm.
that they made that decision
Yeah.
in a very informed way.
That's such a gift. Thank you. That's really good. Yeah, and really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked in some places where it was like, oh, really high
Mhm.
imposter syndrome, so you had to confront it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Justin, you just mentioned a couple of things, right? That you've had to kind of work through these, I don't know, internal challenges of perfectionism and or imposter syndrome. And what has that journey been like for you throughout, the Lego building process, but then also in the business world and, and coming in and being like, I'm going to teach all of you guys about leadership through like play, right? What has that journey been like for you?
It's been really interesting to kind of think through. I'm answering a question before thinking. Sorry. What has the journey been like thinking through kind of navigating perfectionism and moving through that? Okay. Yeah. So I think one of the things that's been a gift to helping me unlock and move past perfectionism has been play with Lego, because you can look at something and you can say, you created this, and I can look at it and say, there's a million ways that I want to improve upon that. But others will see it and will say, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And so building things that come out of my brain and that are so different than things I built before, and then showing and displaying that at conventions has been really helpful to see through other people's eyes. It's like
that.
So many people coming through and saying, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And this is so neat. And not only the audience who comes through at the conventions where it's like families and parents and just people who are interested in Lego or art that are amazed by what they see because they don't build with a brick every day. But then also from the others in the community who I look at their models and I think, oh my gosh, that's incredible. How do you do this? And one of the gifts of that community, too, is it's a very collaborative and open source type environment. So you say, this is incredible. How did you do it? And people say, oh my gosh, let me show you. And they take it apart and point out all the pieces. And so it helped me to see others that I respect and value and that I look up to are looking at me as someone to look up to. And that piece, I suppose, of like, I trust their credentials here. I trust what they're seeing was a piece of that, I think. In the workspace, one of the things I found really eye-opening to me about my perfectionism and also my fear of taking up space, I think was really a big piece of it. On that steering group, one of the first things we started was we had a women's network that was just organically grown at the company. And we decided, we also had two other groups for other identities that we thought these groups could also build and grow into formalized employee resource groups. And so that was an easy starting point, which also coming from working with student organizations, like there were so many connections and ways that I saw this showing up in the workplace and that I saw solutions and opportunities and such. So started to build out that framework and leaning a lot on what the Women's Network built on their own, while also providing them some new tools to grow and scale that, which was fun. We invited one of the Women's Network members in to speak on some of the great things they'd done. And the steering group, all these executives are in the room. This employee is sharing all the wonderful things they did and getting a lot of praise and everything. And the praise is actually centered on me. Thank you so much for building this, for creating this. Look what we've done. And my response was to say, look what she's done. Look what they've done. Like they actually have been doing this for a few years. And one of the execs pulled me aside afterward with the Women's Network leader, and both of them said, "Stop giving everybody else all the credit all the time." And it's so interesting because often I'm in organizations where that's the problem to address is like, you're taking the credit and you're not doing anything, like prop up your people. But it exposed how I was really afraid of taking up too much space, of looking like I'm the one who did all the things and not giving credit where credit was due. And so much of that was from also in the past doing work and seeing others take credit for my work. And like, I never wanted anyone to have that experience. So I overcorrected.
Right. 100%.
And it was like, oh my gosh, the interesting like learnings. But it was from an executive who, our approaches were so different. Our minds were so different. But she had this incredible core of empathy that guided her decisions and such. And I valued her so much. And she would talk with me about how she valued my ability to connect with people and to see the humanity behind a lot of the things that were happening. And her job was a lot more numbers related. And it was like, you see me that way? So a lot of it had to be or was centered around the benefit of working with others that and seeing myself through their lens a little bit too. It's taken way longer than I wanted it to. Like, I wish I would have learned those things earlier on, but at the same time,
this is the journey.
It is.
And you talked about like as a perfectionist needing to see that it's still growing. Right. So it's like, you're not at the end yet.
No.
So how can we expect perfection if we're still growing?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And how do you teach people about that when you're struggling with it yourself?
100%.
Like, I needed to start owning and living the things I was pushing for others.
Well, absolutely.
And that modeling, I think, is so important because if you are communicating, I expect perfection of myself, what are you communicating to others?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, and, my coach used to say to me, who really likes the person, and then
oh my gosh,
who slow hand raise. No, I don't. No, I don't.
but like the idea around that is like there's like beauty in imperfection,
oh my
right?
gosh,
And so like
true.
but we put so much pressure on ourselves to just be like, just get everything right and like don't make any mistakes, et cetera, et cetera. But to somebody who's experiencing you, it's like the imperfections that make us human, right? And that's like the beautiful part of it,
they
right?
do, but I think there's also this coming back to the lens of how other people see you. Like 100% agree. We need to see faultless is a fault was one of my favorite quotes. But also that it's like, depending on people's scale, like I could see something that you've created and be like, that is absolutely perfect. Right? Like, are you kidding me? That's perfect. And so I think it's also giving credit to other people's point of view.
Yes.
And if you are to deny them that it is a perfect piece of work, again, what does that communicate?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and there's something else that's coming up for me, Justin, as you're telling this story, which is, like leadership comes in so many different forms. And I think, sometimes in the corporate environment, we can go so stuck on the loudest person in the room, the person that has the most confidence, the person that has the most, ideas, or the person who just bulldozes and gets stuff done. Yeah. And it's just such a reminder of creativity comes in a number of different forms. Intelligence comes in a number of different forms. How people speak. And I again, this speaks so much to like the work that you do around inclusion and belonging and all of that, is that people have voice, that we give people the opportunity to have voices.
Absolutely.
And we value the differences, which is what you just talked about, the lady that you worked with, that you guys really valued each other for being a little bit different. Right? Interpreting things and perceiving things in a different way.
Absolutely.
It's just like a reminder.
It is.
Yeah.
The work that I was able to do in that corporate environment really helped me own both my own subject matter expertise within these concepts of DEI. And obviously still with that idea of like, I can always continue to grow. Yes, that's true for everyone. So that doesn't mean that you've stopped growing, right? So demystify what that means to be a SME or subject matter expert. But also it opened up some opportunities where I did see areas of growth for me that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to solve or learn from in the higher ed environment. And so, and that's specific to the work that I was doing in higher ed. I was working in universities that were U.S. based. We might have international students and such, but it was still working with people that were from similar cultures and dynamics and whatnot. And working at this company, it was a global company. More than 2/3 of our employees were outside the U.S. And so when we think about inclusion and we think about the lens of inclusion and what I had learned up to that point, so much of it was still U.S. focused. And I learned through building out the strategy and framework of our office and of our function within HR, also around how it's different to build strategy in a global environment, in a disparate environment where you have different offices and you have different cultures within each office as well. Physical buildings have culture and space and feel to them, and then how that translates to the way that we communicate online. And obviously, all of this, a lot of this was pre-pandemic, and then we shift to this, okay, now how do you drive inclusion in a space where people are in their living rooms or at home or have a baby screaming in the other room or, all the things that, of course, every organization had to navigate. But I don't know where I was going with this, but I learned a lot around building strategy in a global environment.
That's amazing.
And then I had the opportunity to kind of put that into practice with organizations outside my own, in that I started working as a consultant on a team for a thought leader that I really loved and valued, that I discovered with a thought leader that I really loved and valued, whom I discovered through the DEI space, and came onto his team. It was entirely remote, and I got to do consulting with different organizations around the globe through that lens. And that was awesome to then apply what I was learning in my workspace at one organization to other organizations, and see where, again, one solution here is not going to be the same solution that you need here, and that kind of thing. So.
Right, and the thing that's interesting is, we can be nuanced in the approach, and there are like similar challenges that exist across, across these different organizations. It's so funny. It's so funny when you start to see it at that level. Like you just see, we have communication issues. We have like alignment issues. We have like clarity issues, right? And those things drive major problems down the organization or through the organization, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's where, part of the skill set of becoming a coach and consultant is really learning how to identify and see some of those things that are commonalities, and also recognizing the piece of exactly what you said of the solution may not be the same, but the problem may be rooted in similar ways. You do start to see that as you work with multiple clients and you're like, okay, I've seen this before.
Sounds familiar.
And I think that's also something that I really enjoyed working on that consulting team is we had others to also bounce ideas off of. And for me, I was wanting to kind of test the waters of consulting and see if I liked it. And my organization was supportive of me doing that on the side as long as it didn't conflict with my full-time work, which was great. So I was in this really unique opportunity to learn and grow and also to connect with other consultants. And I think that also helped build my confidence because they would come to me and ask ideas and I would have solutions and thoughts, and their responses were, wow, that was different than what I thought, or, that's interesting, or it did confirm what I was thinking as well. It was a very collaborative space, which was great. And that also kind of gave me more confidence to go out on my own and create my own thing. So
love that.
Yeah.
You just said collaboration, and I was reminded of something that you said earlier about the Lego community as a whole, right? What is it? Like, what do you think the thread is with this community of being like open and I want to share, what I've built versus like the hoarding of like, oh, but this is mine. I don't want to share it. Like, this is my value. Like, what do you think it is about this community that's like, oh, I can't wait to share with you what I've done?
Right. Yeah. I think some of it is rooted in people entering the community in a sense of this is just play. So it feels like there's low stakes to it, There seems to be, at least from my experience, less gatekeeping in it because it's like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. How did you do that? The way that I approach, so technically I'm also a Lego ambassador, and that just means that Lego sends me product and I get to reveal it and share and build cool models.
Influencer still.
So cool. You are the coolest.
Thank you. The most fun. My husband and I build together. We do a lot of pop culture builds. So we'll get right now we're working on the Jurassic Park Jeep, which is massive and cool. But when I'm doing reviews, I'm looking at it through the lens of what did I learn from the Lego designers who designed this? Because I see them as really the experts for sure. And they're the ones who I learn from to then apply those to my own models. And so even with my own build challenge community that I have, I teach a different tutorial and technique each month, and it's something small and simple, and then I encourage my community members to build something and incorporate that into it. So this month it's a disc. So how do you build a round disc that's fully round?
So cool.
And it's like more complicated than people think.
Right.
And it's also pretty easy once you have the right bricks and the know-how. And then I'm encouraging my builders then to incorporate that in. So one person built it as a sun in the background of a scene. Another person used the concept to build the shoulder of a character that is massive. And it's just so neat to see like this little tiny thing that can be very simple is something that can be changed and adapted and applied to solving problems like how do I get the shoulder to move
and unlock for them creatively, right?
Yeah.
But so cool.
If it weren't open source, then we would all be looking at our challenges individually and no one would know the solution.
Sharing it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what a gift to the people who are following you and watching you, right? To be able to, to be able to see, okay, like I don't know how to do a disc. I don't know how to make this circle or whatever. And then they, go and you're also just a teacher.
It's education.
It's education in some ways, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And there's obviously through everything we've talked about, there's just so many layers to it, right? What do they get to take away from learning a new skill? Right? Not any different than the work environment. Right?
Oh, no, for sure. Yeah. The other piece too is it's interesting because I speak about this as the community feels very open source. I also go to conventions where there are people who are trying to win the awards, and that's like their goal is to be the best builder in this area. And occasionally I'll see some of that gatekeeping with them. I actually had one person who reached out to me and said, I'm really struggling with if I should share how I did this because I kind of want to just keep it for me. And I pushed back on that a little bit and said, that's up to you to do. And it was a personal friend, and so I appreciated that he was asking my opinion on it. But I said, ultimately, I think it's helpful for others to get a chance to see this. How did you learn that? Like someone probably showed you something that led to this, right? And maybe the someone showing you was you built it in a Lego set, but still you got that from something, and it's a gift to others to be able to see. Plus, people will then probably tell others, I learned the coolest thing from him, right? And that was a way to be like, you get some credit too if you do this,
Exactly.
But the area of looking at Lego as play, I think it helps with that open source feel, but also looking at it as art. I feel like within artist communities, sometimes you get some of that, but for the most part, it's like, this is so cool. This is a neat technique. This is something I learned. We also live in a culture of trying to commodify everything and sell. Like,
so true.
So many people have said like, oh, you need to sell these workshops. You need to sell these things. And it's like, well, I really enjoy the consulting work. I really enjoy teaching workshops and things. I do sometimes sell that type of product, but it's more through the lens of let's do a workshop for the community where it's kits and everybody's building and learning together. And that's different than like I'm teaching a class and I'm selling all just pay this amount of money and then you'll get all the access to see. So that feels different to me. And maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. But,
I love it.
I do too. It's also for me, sometimes I'll go down like a philosophical path, but your point of view as someone who wants to be collaborative, how much that also shapes your lens of being able to see the collaboration.
Oh my gosh.
Like
absolutely.
If I'm competitive, all I maybe see is everybody else being competitive.
Yes.
So your mindset of going in and wanting to give back, I think probably enables you further to see that in
it's a really
return.
great point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, so Justin, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next on this amazing journey of yours?
I love that question. And I ask that question of myself a lot too. I've really been exploring what it means to be a Lego artist and how that takes time. And so, to balance the time of continuing to do the consulting work and the coaching work that I have these opportunities with different clients, I love it. It feeds me in different ways. But the Lego artistry side of things also feeds me in ways that feels new and different. And I kind of feel like I'm in this glorious moment where there's opportunity there. I had this really incredible opportunity for the Wicked for Good premiere, where Lego hired me to build couture fashion pieces.
So cool.
For this influencer who walked the red carpet, which
it's incredible.
She looked amazing too.
She did, right? She is the nicest person ever. She was such a gem to work with. She sewed her dress. I did the skirt piece that comes over. But walking that red carpet with her was also really fun because everyone was amazed by her Lego attire, and the first thing she would say was, "They made it. This is Justin. This is who you need to know." And it was like, "Thank you for giving me my flowers. How cool!" But that opportunity gave me also more visibility with other organizations and companies and such to do fun building opportunities for them, and sometimes it's like I'm building to a specific brief, but I'm trying to push myself to build to my own just art for art's sake and see what comes from that as well. So that piece, and then also continuing to flesh out what are the offerings I want to offer with my consulting business. A huge piece of the work I did before that I really valued and loved was cultural intelligence and the way that we communicate across cultures.
So great.
And so I'm also looking into how do I continue to offer that, but also incorporate a Lego component.
Oh, so good.
Since so many people now come to me because of the Lego piece first, I want to offer and provide that, but then still connect them to these other resources and things.
Absolutely.
So,
I know,
so good. I could charge you for another hour.
Oh my gosh, likewise. This has been so fun.
This is so fun.
Yeah,
well, we appreciate you so much. And this is you've got my head, turning around how do we bring Justin in to do some projects with people? You know what I mean? So amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, this was so great.
Oh, thank you
so much.
Yeah,
for
thank you.
Really so
joining
lovely.
us. It was really eye-opening, and I'm taking away so much from this.
Thank you. Likewise.
I know you talk about how long it took to get to where you are, but someone outside of you, when I think about your level of mastery, I'm like,
same.
that doesn't feel like that long.
No, seriously.
Thank you so much.
I mean, truly. This happened fast. But it's almost like it was almost like
so much.
almost feels like it was an unlock. It was almost like an unlock for you. You started playing and then you were like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I got something here. I can do something with this,
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we love you.
Thank you.
It's a so
Likewise.
opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyways.
Okay, we appreciate you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
so
I
much.
appreciate this. This has been wonderful. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you guys for joining us. As always, subscribe to the As You Are podcast on all platforms, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.